What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Council Sessions. I am Dave Cottingham here with Cyber Ren. How are you, sir?
Yes, doing good. Glad to be back.
Yes.
As always.
We have a little, it's a little downtime right now in Star Wars, I feel like.
Yeah. We have a downtime on the Mandalore. I miss you, man.
I know. We still got a couple months until the next show drops, which is Skeleton Crew on December 3rd.
Yep.
So actually, it's, about 2 months, a little over 2 months.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, a little less than 2 months. It's October 7th or something like that, 8th maybe. I don't even know.
It's still a long time away. We need to come up with something else. Yeah.
And we are going to be talking about some recent news that's been dropped, and newsworthy, I guess. It really stems from an appearance by Ewan McGregor at a recent Comic-Con. He was sitting on a panel, and it got brought up about the possibilities of him being Obi-Wan again. Now, as far as I can tell, it wasn't really a direct question of, will you ever do Obi-Wan Kenobi again? Or, is there a possibility? He just basically, and I'm reading it from a quote. And actually, this came from an Entertainment Weekly article. So it's not like somebody just randomly posted this on their blog site or something like that. But basically, he was saying that he would like to wear the armor from the Clone Wars.
Ooh.
And he teased that it's something that he would enjoy. But basically, it came basically saying that obviously between the end of the Obi-Wan Kenobi series and the Alec Guinness Obi-Wan Kenobi, there's got to be another few stories in there. McGregor said, "We're definitely hoping, or exploring." I think that would be the word to say. So. There is talks going on in Lucasfilm.
And that's the story that I heard that I read is that in one of his interviews, he had said, I really want to do something more to bridge the gap between my age Obi-Wan and the older Obi-Wan with Alec Guinness. We need to bridge that closer with another story in between.
That's right.
Yeah.
So we'll get into, I guess, the main question here in a little bit. But I guess to start off, as soon as I heard this, of course, my mind starts getting flooded with the possibilities of what a season 2 would look like.
Totally.
Is it a continuation, or is it even possibly a prequel? Because he has expressed that he would love to work with Hayden again, right? So it begs the question, does that mean Darth Vader, or does that actually mean Anakin Skywalker?
Yeah.
So season 2, if that happens, in your opinion or your expectation, what would you like to see as a season 2, or what timeline would you want to see a season 2 in?
Well, I got 3 answers for you.
3 answers, okay.
I'll rhyme all 3 of them off, then we can dive into each one. I think there's 3 perfect scenarios that could go on. Number 1, you could obviously do a direct sequel to season 2, just continue on the storyline. He helped Leia. Now he's back on Tatooine. Young Luke is there. Uncle Owen allowed him to meet him. So now I think there's a very good chance that something had to have happened with young Luke and Obi-Wan over all the years that he watched over him. He's not going to go for 10, 15 years of not ever having any interaction with him. So there's a story there for the 2 of them to have developed at least a friendship, for Luke to have called him, you mean that old crazy wizard or whatever? Like there's a reason why he calls him that. Right? So there's that story there. Then you could go completely off the board. And like I said, bridge the gap between his age of Obi-Wan and the Alec Guinness age Obi-Wan. Let's just jump ahead another 15, 20 years and put him right smack dab in the middle of something. Something happens, and it could be anything. I mean, the galaxy's wide open. It could just be a story where Ewan McGregor is now much older and looks a lot closer to the Alec Guinness version, and he's just got to do something.
Yeah.
So that's your second idea. Now, the third idea, you just said he wants to work with Hayden again. Well, yes, you could put Hayden in the Darth Vader suit, but then you're starting to introduce a whole bunch of variables that have never been brought up before. How many times did Obi-Wan face Vader? We really only ever thought the one time, but now we've seen that he saw him before in season 1. So your only option is to go back and bring to life a Clone Wars story.
Yeah.
And it could be any of the stories that we've already seen in the 7 seasons of Clone Wars cartoon, or you just make a whole new story that happens to take place during the Clone Wars era. And there you go. There's your 3 options.
Well, your second one, if I heard you correctly, the thing about the future one is you only got 9 years.
Okay, 9 years. Yeah, I said 10, 15. Yeah, so 9 years.
You've got 9 years from the end of last season, the first season, to A New Hope.
Yeah.
I think, I think a continuation of the 3 you laid out, in my response, I would say the continuation makes the most sense, because I still think you can't, I don't know, personally, I don't know if you can get too close to A New Hope, just because unless it purely is just an Obi-Wan story and you don't have Vader in it, you don't have Leia, you don't have Luke, because at that point it's thought to be like he's gone. Like no one knows about Obi-Wan Kenobi anymore. Everybody just knows about this old Ben crazy guy, and the Empire thinks he's dead. Vader thinks he's dead. You know, it's like he doesn't really think he's dead, but it's like he hasn't seen him in a while. So if it's just a pure, and I think that could get a little, I don't know, not boring, but it could be just kind of really so isolated that it doesn't really make sense.
Yeah.
A continuation with young Luke, that makes more sense. But I think I'm with you on your third option. I think the Clone Wars didn't get completed. There are probably storylines that we haven't even seen.
Yeah.
That you could turn into a live action series. 3, or even if it's just like 3 or 4 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, unfortunately, you would probably have to like spend a lot of money de-aging these guys, because they're a lot older than.
I mean, we saw it though. We
did
with the flashbacks.
Correct. We did.
It was good enough. I mean,
it wasn't bad. I don't think they de-aged them though. I mean, you could see Hayden was a little older, like he looked older, but But I think you would have to invest a little bit in de-age these guys a little bit. You already have the actress that played young Ahsoka.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that begs the question, like, is that just fan service, or what's the point of, what's so important about that storyline that it has to be told?
Because they can, because the actors are still able to, because Filoni is in charge. I mean, we loved that moment so much when we saw the flashbacks to Anakin and Obi-Wan training again and having that. It felt like the Clone Wars were brought to life in that moment alone.
Yeah.
And I will totally bypass, hand wave the fact that they're older and they might look a little bit older. Even if they use de-aging technology to touch it up a little bit, I wouldn't care. The Clone Wars stories are some of the best stories in all of Star Wars. And if they could bring some of those to life just to let these actors play together again, I think so many people would be down for that.
Yeah.
And if I had to pick out of the 3, that would be my choice. My preference is to bring in Clone Wars. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just because of the fun of it. I mean, we got a little bit of it in episode 2 and 3, but they had to rush the story along so fast because they're in a movie. But if we get an 8-episode series, you could spend time, just like they did in the Clone Wars series, just going through one of the stories of Obi-Wan and Anakin on an adventure together. Yes. Anakin being reckless and Obi-Wan trying to calm him down and follow the rules, and just like the fun that they could have.
Yeah, and I think that would be, I think think the story is very important. I think because a lot of what we see in the Clone Wars, you know, especially when they get into like season 3 and 4 and 5, you know, they're all pretty much broken up into these 3 or 4 episode story arcs.
Yeah, exactly.
And as long as one of those, you know, maybe in live action, you'd stretch it out to maybe 5 or 6 episodes. But as long as that arc, it becomes a relevant story to their relationship. It's not just another Clone Wars or another war you know, that happens. Like, there's got to be something significant, I think, that would have to happen to be able to tell that story. I tell you one thing that would be a huge opportunity that maybe they're thinking of, I don't know, but you know, when the Clone Wars movie came out in 2008, before the series started, you know, that story centered around this battle that's happening on Christophsis. And then it transitions to the kidnapping of Jabba the Hutt's son, you know, and that's what pretty much the movie's about, is them trying to rescue Jabba's son so that the Republic doesn't get blamed, and then he sides with the Hutt cartel sides with the Separatists.
Yeah.
But amongst this storyline, all of a sudden, it's just a sudden appearance by one of our favorite characters, Asajj Ventress. We never got a proper introduction of where she came from.
Right.
That would be a story arc, I think, that you can incorporate with this.
Could you imagine a live action Asajj?
Correct.
You're singing
think
music
of the opportunity.
to my ears, man.
Think of the opportunity you can do, and you can bring back these Jedi that you haven't really seen in live action either, like Quinlan Vos.
Mm-hmm.
You know, again, he might be a little older, but he hasn't looked that old, but you can bring back Mace Windu technically. You know, Samuel L. Jackson.
Sure. Yeah.
So because this would take place, if you did that, this would take place shortly after episode 2, right?
Right.
When the Clone Wars was just kicking off, and somehow Dooku, you know, there were. Do you know the? It's on Disney Plus now. Actually, do you know the micro series? They call it the micro series that came out. The first animated Clone Wars. It was kind of George's test before he did the 3D version. It was a 2D version.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't seen them yet.
They're really good, because I remember they came out before episode 3 came out.
I have to look them up.
Yeah, go under Disney Plus, and if you go under the vintage, there's like a vintage time, you know, like a selection under the Star Wars
under
portion.
Right.
And you'll see Clone Wars. It's called the Clone Wars micro series, and they're short episodes. I think there's 2 seasons. One was maybe 15 episodes. The other one was like maybe just 6 or 7 episodes. And it does show the introduction of Asajj, and it shows the introduction of Grievous.
Oh, really?
But it's not canon, right? It's not canon anymore, right? So because he did the 3D versions of Clone Wars, but
Clone Wars 2D micro series.
Yes.
Okay.
They're really good. They're actually really good.
There's only it's 2 movies basically.
It's 2 seasons, right?
Yeah, 2 seasons. So it says 1 hour and 9 minutes and 1 hour and 3 minutes.
Yeah.
There's only 2 of them there. Huh.
Yeah. So you mean did they combine it into one piece?
Yeah. It just says season 1, Star Wars Vintage Clone Wars Part 1 and Part 2, and they're both an hour long.
Oh, so they combined all the series, all the little, because they were all like 4 or 5 minute episodes.
Okay.
When they first came out, so they must have like combined them all together into.
So the timeline of that is before the Clone Wars movie.
So you got to think of it as that wasn't even a thought. Like this was the Clone Wars series.
Okay.
Before episode 3 came out. So when between episode 1 and 2 and 3, when the movies, they released this micro series to kind of set up episode 3. It even explains Grievous's cough.
Oh, get out of here.
Yeah.
Wow.
So he was doing it like it was canon, but when he created the 3D versions later, like he just kind of threw these aside as non-canon again, and then the 3D versions became the canon.
Okay.
So he didn't revisit any of these other storylines. We didn't really get an origin story of Asajj. We didn't get an origin story of Grievous, you know. So it's like all of a sudden these guys just know who they are, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, a live action version of Asajj is definitely something I think we would kill for.
You sold me, man. Jeez. I mean, I just want more Asajj in any way we can get her. Give her her own comic book series. I don't care. Like,
yeah, that's true. That's true.
You know, she's alive again. So when are we going to see her again?
So, okay. So if we're both in agreement that Clone Wars would probably be a good idea to continue the Obi-Wan series as. So what I thought was interesting was Kathleen Kennedy also told, she was interviewed or asked the same question in this EW article, and she said that the idea of continuing Obi-Wan's story was very much on the table. She said, quote, "It's certainly something we talk about, mainly because everybody came together and had such an incredible time. Ewan had an incredible time. Hayden had an incredible time. So certainly from that point of view, everybody involved would love to see this not end." And then she goes on to say, "But we have to really spend our time asking the question, why would we do it? If we were to decide to do anything more with the Obi-Wan character, we'd have to really answer the question, why?" So that's our big question. No matter how much we love a season 2, no matter how much we would love to see a live action, why should they do or shouldn't they do a season 2 of Obi-Wan?
See, she's really smart in the way she worded that, because that's a lot of people complain about Kathleen Kennedy, but that is a smart producer. That is somebody who is thinking, we're not going to just throw some fluff out there just because. If we're going to do it, we need to have the question why answered so that we're delivering good content, especially for these legacy characters. But she also worded it, if we're going to continue the story. That's also a key word. That to me sounds like they're thinking and only discussing continuing sequel-wise to what we'd already gotten. So they might not be looking at doing any de-aging or doing any past storytelling. They're continuing Obi-Wan from what we had in season 1.
Well, I will say the continuing part was written in as EW. She wasn't quoted saying continuing.
Oh, okay.
She just said, it's certainly something we talk about, a season 2, basically.
Okay.
So
I wonder, I guess they have to talk about how much that would confuse people, because we got a season 1 which bridged a bit of the gap in an area of time that we didn't know a lot about when he met young Leia and stuff. But if they were suddenly go back 10 years from that, back in time, it might confuse some people. Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, could. Definitely could.
They're probably concerned about that, unless they clearly state in the beginning, like you and me discussed on the show, put a timestamp right on the screen in the opening 5 seconds. You know?
Yes.
5 years after the Phantom Menace or whatever. And we know where we are, and everybody's on the same page.
Yes.
So the question is why? Well, I kind of gave an answer already. I mean, right now, the problem, what happened, like we all wanted sequels to the original trilogy so badly, and they waited almost 40 years to do it. And Luke, Han, and Leia got very old. So they were basically pigeonholed into only one specific story they could tell because those actors had gotten so much older. If they don't want that to happen again, while they've got Ewan McGregor, while he's still young enough, and Hayden, to still play the part Obi-Wan as if he's still from the prequel trilogy or whatever, he looks close enough he can still continue the part. They need to jump on it now. Do not wait 10 years. Do not wait 15 years to do it. Do it now. That's your first answer as to why. Why? Do it now while you've got the actors, while they're still young enough to be able to do it. Save you some money in de-aging, save you, and while he's physically capable. So that's number one, why. Number two, I would say, is just the sheer popularity of the character, the fact that you've got an actor that loves the role and wants to continue doing it. You've got a fan base out there that recently, in all honesty, is a little bit upset with what you've been giving us. So if you go back to a legacy character and give us a very solid story that just continues, you know, a beloved character's journey before A New Hope, then I think that's your answer to why right there. I mean, why not? I guess you could answer the why not with like, do you need it? Do we need it? Is there, because there are fans out there, and you guys have talked about before, there are fans out there that are tired of the Skywalker storyline. They want to move on. They want new people, new characters, and new whatever. Well, they've tried to give us that, and you guys tore it apart with the Acolyte and stuff like that. So, and I know people are going to be complaining, well, yeah, but we want it, but we want quality, and Acolyte wasn't quality. So, it's a really tough. That's a tough question to answer why, but I say my biggest answer is because you have the actors willing and wanting to do it, and they're still young enough to pull it off. That's my biggest answer as to why. And I think you've got a fan base large enough that would still love to see more.
Yeah,
for sure.
So before I answer it, what about the thought of, can you have Obi-Wan Kenobi without a Vader or an Anakin?
I think so.
Because we haven't seen it yet. Like,
no.
Obi-Wan's always been accompanied by
a
Vader or an Anakin.
Mind you, but that's their storyline. I mean, Obi-Wan was tasked by Qui-Gon to take care of this Padawan and raise him and train him. That's their story. They've been brothers since Anakin was a kid. They've been brothers all the way through, right up till the final fateful moments when, you know, Obi-Wan cuts him down. Like, their story is so entwined. So how do you not have them together? Well, obviously there's many years separation from the time that happens when they no longer see each other. We see it in The New Hope. Like, you know, both of them say, like, wow, it's been a long time since I felt that guy in the Force.
Yes.
Like, I'm surprised you're still alive. I'm surprised. So there's an entire, I don't know how many years that is, that they've never seen each other. They didn't even know each other was still around. Mm-hmm. So there's your timeline to have an Obi-Wan story without Darth Vader.
Yeah, I think it can exist because, you know, I think they did a good job at the end of the season 1 where, you know, the Emperor basically told him, you're done focusing on Obi-Wan Kenobi.
And Vader says, yes, my master.
Yes. So
yeah.
I think I'm okay with not having Vader in this next thing. In fact, even in season 1, to be honest, like, I didn't need to see them fight each other. Like, I think it was awesome. But
yeah,
Leia, the whole Leia thing threw me off because that became an incredible storyline. And the relationship that was built between Leia and Obi-Wan, I thought was incredibly special.
Well, everything we got with them leads up to the moment where she kneels down to R2 and says, help us, Obi-Wan.
Absolutely.
You're my only hope. We had no idea why she trusted him so much.
Yes.
Now we know.
And that last scene where he explains the qualities of her mother and her father, like, that still brings me to tears. Yeah. It's so emotional. And I think you can have that with Luke as well. And I think you can still use Inquisitors to have your lightsaber battles and not have Vader in it. And I think that would still work.
Yep.
Now, as far as the question goes, is why should they or shouldn't they do a season 2? Of course, I say they should because I want to see it, for one. You know, Ewan is one of my favorite actors, and I think he embodies Obi-Wan.
He is Obi-Wan now.
Yeah.
He played it. Alec Guinness, yes, we love him, but he only played it for a couple movies. Ewan has done far more as Obi-Wan than Alec ever did.
Totally. Absolutely.
So it's his role now.
Yeah, it totally is.
Yeah.
it's a very hard question to answer because.
So you asked me first. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Because, like you said, there is that line of legacy characters versus, new storylines, new characters. At some point, when is Lucasfilm going to start making that transition where they get away from the Skywalker saga? And I will say, you're kind of already starting to see that a little bit, not just in the films or the television shows, but you're starting to see it in other mediums where, books, The High Republic, right? I mean, you're getting outside the timeline. There's discussions apparently at Disney parks about Galaxy's Edge, starting to shift away from the whole timeline of the sequel trilogy and making it more of an open timeline of characters that can come through there.
Yeah.
So there's already, it seems like, discussions on not trying to be restrictive in this, Skywalker saga and legacy and all that stuff, and trying to really expand the look and the feel of Star Wars in these areas.
Yeah.
So part of me is like, you shouldn't do it because let's move on to other things. But you also got to look at it as what's been successful. And as well as I do, you usually try to ride out the successful things until it's not successful anymore.
Yeah.
And right now, it just seems like the buzz in fans is that they want more Obi-Wan Kenobi. So you almost have to give the fans what they want.
Because what you've given them, they didn't want.
Correct. You've tried to give them other things, and the same could be said about Ahsoka in a sense. Like, I think a lot of fans wanted that, and a lot of fans appreciate it, and they want more of it.
Yep.
Now, here's a thought, too, that I will say before I finish my answer. What if you did this? You have an Obi-Wan series there.
Yeah.
You have an Ahsoka series. What if you did an Anakin series and had Obi-Wan in the Anakin series?
Uh-huh.
So it's not a season 2 of Obi-Wan. It's more of an Anakin Skywalker storyline but I think it should, and that's how you can set it around the Clone Wars era. So it's a separate series and not this Obi-Wan series. Because think about it. Now I haven't seen anything quote wise, but I have seen people mention that it's a possibility that Natalie Portman would actually consider coming back.
Whoa.
You have a chance to bring Padme back? Come on, man.
That's our trio. Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Padme. It's Luke, Han, and Leia of the prequels.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How awesome would that be?
That would be
I love Ahsoka, young Ahsoka, but man, you put Padme in there with Natalie Portman.
Yeah.
Now you're selling some tickets.
You could have young Ahsoka part of it too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah, you still would.
Yeah.
But think about that storyline again, seeing more of that live action connectivity with Padme and Anakin during the Clone Wars. Because we saw, like you said, episode 2 and we saw the beginning of the Clone Wars, the end of the Clone Wars. Now, yes, we got an animated version of the Clone Wars, but you saw some struggle there with Anakin and Padme, but it was in 3D. If you get the emotion of the war with Hayden and Natalie, that right there, man, that's something I would want to watch.
Over 8 episodes where they could stretch it out and not squeeze it into 2 hours.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So maybe my answer is they shouldn't do an Obi-Wan. They should do an Anakin series.
And now you've had one for each. And there's Ahsoka season 2 coming. So if they've done one for each, then do you do one with all of them after?
I mean, you could. I mean, Hayden's probably going to be in season. It seems like Hayden's going to be in Ahsoka season 2 as a Force ghost.
I mean, remember way back when we broke the news, Hayden signed on for some long-term Star Wars deals. So there's obviously stuff coming that he's part of.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
So, so what is it? Give it to us, right?
Could be more Vader too.
Yeah, it could be more Vader for sure.
But I think he's relishing the fact that he's so welcomed and so appreciated now for that role. And yeah, he's gonna play it. He's gonna play more, I think. And honestly, I don't think it's a bad thing to, again, when you think of this, I guess when you think of the Skywalker saga, that's the thing, is like, you have this tendency of most fans, I feel like, in most, filmmakers and stuff like that, I think they tend to think of 4, 5, 6, and 7, 8, 9 because that's what has, Luke, Leia, and Han. Like, they're not part of the prequels. No. So it almost feels like the prequels are kind of its own thing. It's not like the Skywalker saga, because the Skywalker saga is Luke and the kids and Leia and the kids. It's not really Anakin and Padme, which to me, like, that truly what makes the Skywalker saga is you have the rise and fall of Anakin Skywalker. That's a big part of it. But I feel like because those legacy characters aren't in the prequels, they kind of get pushed aside as like this separate story.
Yeah.
But that's the story I've come to. That's the era I've actually come to love the most, I feel like.
Is the prequel era, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. I think anything to do with Obi-Wan and Anakin, that story, I mean, that was some of my favorite storytelling during the Clone Wars anyway, is their adventures together. Yeah. And I've said it many times on both of our shows, when Anakin was truly a hero, before he ever looked at turning to the dark side, he was the most heroic Jedi that we've ever seen. And the galaxy knew him, that the Jedi knew, like, holy cow, like, he is the chosen one, Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah, yeah.
And we just, in the movies, we did not get enough of that.
Agreed.
The Clone Wars gave it to us, but to be able to revisit that in a live action version and just show us how heroic Anakin was before he fell, that's what builds up the scope of the tragedy that he does fall.
Yeah.
And we've said so many times, like, for people that only have watched the movies, I don't watch cartoons, I'm too old for that. You've got to go watch the Clone Wars, because only then do you truly see the tragedy of Anakin's fall.
That's right.
So, yeah. And it's, so I think if they brought that into live action, it would be spectacular. And I'm actually really itching for it, because I was talking to you off air through texting. I just finished the new book that came out, Padawan's Pride.
Oh, right.
And that's an Obi-Wan and Anakin story. And it's all about Anakin shortly after the Phantom Menace. He's a little bit older, a couple years older. Mm-hmm. And it's just about the two of them. So I'm full on in Obi-Wan and Anakin mode right now, because that just basically bridged Phantom Menace to Attack of the Clones. That's when it takes place. And
I was just about to say that. I think, I mean, obviously you can't do it in live action, but I would, there's 10 years between Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones.
Yeah.
And that's 10 years that really has not been explored. You have a couple books, and mainly you have the what's called kind of the Queen's trilogy. You have like a Padme trilogy out there that really centers around her. But a lot of those books happened during Phantom Menace also, a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So there's pretty much a good chunk of story there in those 10 years. I mean, I'm telling you right now, if I was sitting at Lucasfilm as a content creator, I would say we are doing an animated series of Obi-Wan and Anakin during those 10 years. Sure. All the adventure, build their relationship. Why are they so close? Why have they become brothers? It's like you can build it's just like Clone Wars, but just the time of Obi-Wan struggling to train Anakin, because it was a struggle. The Anakin was, too old to train, but he doesn't listen. He's got a hot head.
He's reckless.
Yeah, this is Obi-Wan's first Padawan, and it's like an only Padawan. It's like,
and, I mean, you could argue he kind of got rushed into being a master too soon because he was barely a knight, and then he had to become master.
That's right.
So,
and you know, he doesn't see a Padme for 10 years, but just that little inclination that he's always thinking of her, that he's longing to find her again. I mean, there's so much there that would be in an Obi-Wan Anakin series. Now they did a couple comics. There's like a couple comic storylines in that era, but and I love them, and that's exactly what I would want to see that. But
yeah.
Anyway,
I mean, this is the things that I think we think would be the most successful. I think would do really, really well, but I also would not say no to continuing the story from where we left off.
Sure.
I would not say no to a completely separate story that's another 5-6 years down the road for whatever reason. Yeah. I mean, it's when you look at Ewan McGregor when we last saw him compared to Alec Guinness, and you say it's only 9 years, something seriously stressful has to happen to age him so much.
Yeah, well, that's unfortunately, it's unfortunate that the age thing has come up because technically Alec Guinness was aged. His age was older for that character at the time.
Yeah,
but you're right. I mean, living on a desert planet for 19 years doesn't really help either. Right?
No, all the sunshine, it's not good for humans, right? Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, my main point was just that I wouldn't say no to a storyline either 5 years later or continuing right where season 1 left off. If that's the only way that's the easiest for them to go, I'd take that too.
I agree. Same. Yeah.
You know,
I totally agree.
And why would you do it? Do you want to ask the question, why would you do that too? Because I think you left fans wanting more. You ended season 1 with him finally getting Qui-Gon, visiting him as a ghost. Mm-hmm. And part of Padawan's pride, Obi-Wan is talking to Qui-Gon quite a bit. Qui-Gon visits him and hangs out with him as a Force ghost quite a bit throughout that book. And you're thinking, man, I want more of that. Like, let's see where Obi-Wan continues on now that
he comes to him as a Force ghost in that?
Yeah.
Wow, that actually breaks a lot of continuity.
Oh, because Anakin's young, and in the Obi-Wan series...
Well, it's not even until episode 3 that Yoda learns... Well, it's Clone Wars that Yoda learns the process, and he tells Obi-Wan there that Qui-Gon has just kind of learned how to...
Oh.
Like, in episode 3, he's never talked to Obi-Wan. Or
maybe this is a topic for discussion on your other show.
Yeah, that's
Qui-Gon visits him quite a bit, and they're just hanging out talking about stuff. So it's like,
wow, that's wow, that's big. That's big.
So maybe this book isn't canon.
No, I'm pretty sure it should be. It's supposed to be. I'll look that up though. I'll see if anybody's talking about that.
Okay. But my point being that Qui-Gon shows up at the end of season 1. I would like to see that relationship continue because what has Qui-Gon said? He says, "Are you ready to go? Let's go now." Yes. Like, why are you taking so long? Like, you're slow.
Well,
we
got a lot to do or something like that.
Yeah. So there's a story right there. Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, because we had Qui-Gon for one movie.
Yep.
Let's see him as a Force ghost, training Obi-Wan to accept his new role, his new fate that he's,
Yep.
I'd be fine with that too.
Okay. Well, that was good discussions. I think that was really good.
That's exciting stuff.
It is exciting stuff. That kind of took us.
I know people want new stuff, but you know what? We love Star Wars for a reason. Because of Luke and Han and Leia and Obi-Wan and Chewie. Why do you want to get away from these legacy characters? We love them so much.
Yeah, agreed.
I don't mind continuing having more stories with these guys at all.
I agree. Totally agree. I do want some newer stories, but the right stories during these time periods. I still think that there's some gaps that we can fill.
I want both.
Yeah, why not?
We're
gonna get Dawn of the Jedi. We're gonna get New Jedi Order. So we're gonna get these other stories at some point.
Yep.
All right, so more to come hopefully on that. Hopefully there is some kind of announcement soon that, maybe they are going to do a season 2 or do something of Obi-Wan Kenobi. That would be incredible. I mean, hopefully they're lining something up because right now we've got Skeleton Crew coming. We know we've got Andor season 2 coming, and we got Ahsoka season 2 apparently starting to shoot next year. But other than that, there's no other kind of live action discussions yet.
Yeah, it's pretty quiet.
Just some movies, that are getting worked on.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
All right. Thanks, Martin, as always, for joining.
Always fun, man.
On Council Sessions. Look for the Mandalore podcast starting back up in December once Skeleton Crew debuts on December 3rd.
Well, we'll do an episode on the video game.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Star Wars Outlaws.
On Outlaws. We got to do a deep dive on that.
I'm actually going to probably play a little bit tonight.
Okay.
I've been playing. You've been playing a lot of it or no?
You know what? Since I last guested on your show, I haven't played since, so it's been a couple weeks.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I mean, it's gotten a little bit busy, but you'd have to listen to our discussion. I got a little bit disenchanted with it for a bit. I haven't been itching to go back to play so much. So I now that I've had some time away, I'll probably get back on it. But
yeah, well, it's funny for me. I kind of I veered off of the main storyline a lot. Like I was doing all these different missions and
me too.
Playing around with it. But then I was like, I really need to get back to the storyline. When I started going back to the storyline, I'm like, oh, this is actually really good. Like I got to the point where I'm sitting there talking. Now I'm working for Jabba.
Oh, are you? Okay, you're farther than me now.
Yeah, I'm on Tatooine right now. So,
okay,
I'm getting ready to kind of head to Akiva, but yeah, I'm enjoying it. I think again, it's one of those just kind of mindless games now where I'm just doing what I want and following along and.
We'll get into it. We'll do a good discussion.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
So, all right.
A couple months.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time. Check out Inside the Force later well, I don't know when you're listening to this. It could be later, but I want to get Hannah's opinion on this, on Inside the Force, to talk about this Obi-Wan stuff. And then, of course, if you're interested in supporting the show, you can go to patreon.com/InsideTheForce and check us out there. So, all right. Thanks, Martin. Take care. We'll see you soon.
This is the way.
Yes, this is the way. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next time. May the Force be with you.